Hello everybody and welcome to the Tyde Guide. In a recent video of Ne Zha, which is linked in the description below, a lot of high mastery Ne Zha players were enraged with the fact that I bought Rage. So they proceeded to give me the recommendations, and to be honest, I have to respectfully disagree. Even with all the time they spent on Ne Zha and the skill they developed with the character, it's never gonna change the fact that I'm going to build Rage instead of Deathbringer. And what you're watching are just a few tests that I ran with an elite fan club member, Snowflower Z. They played Fenrir and I played Ne Zha, and I did a standard Deathbringer burst build with the first video I did, and then I went with the Rage build, which was my own build with my own skill set. So when I did the Deathbringer build, I also went with the skill recommendations in the order people had asked. And both builds started the same, but ended differently because one had Rage and obviously the other one had Deathbringer. Jumping into the argument that Deathbringer is a better choice because Ne Zha has crits built into his kit is exactly why I disagree with the Deathbringer being required over Rage. In fact, even on Artemis I avoid the Deathbringer as an item as a whole, even though she has a natural crit in her passive. So why? Why do I avoid an item that causes additional crit damage and combos well with crits that are already built into a kit? The answer's simple. In a joust match, there's more than one way to build every god, which we can get into in a later date and another time. Deathbringer is not a bad item, and it does well in a glass cannon build because it complements another crit item or someone who does have crits in their kit. However, in the world of joust, we always can't be that glass cannon, nor can we go with a burst style build with Deathbringer. There are tons of different builds to craft and several ways to play them, which makes joust very interesting for me. However, this is another topic to cover another day. Choosing Deathbringer with Ne Zha is mainly to burst your opponent down. Activating your Flaming Spear into Armillary Sash is to burst the opponent with the crit chance on the sash. Then when getting close to your opponent, you obviously use the Flaming Spear's attack speed to land some crits, and sometimes you go into your ult depending on the situation. Your ult deals the additional damage thanks to Deathbringer, and then your burst is done. If your opponent did not die, you have to clean up, and Deathbringer just isn't the item to do so because it complemented a lot of burst damage, but now the follow-up with basic attacks, your opponent can either burst you back or use sustainable fighting to get back into the game. However, even without all the additional burst damage that Deathbringer brings, Rage would be able to effectively continue this fight without the use of skills. Landing consecutive basic attacks while you wail on your opponent means that you can also use your skills for more than that burst. Rage assists in a prolonged fight instead of dealing that additional burst damage. And joust tends to favor the prolonged fights as your opponent will have protections and some sort of method of healing, so making sure that you can sustain in the fight over the burst will help you win those prolonged fights. And this is exactly where Rage comes in. Rage is an item that makes basic attacks crush your opponent. With the scaling crit chance, you score more crits far more often with your basic attacks than you would with Deathbringer. Not to mention that the natural crit that you were using to increase Deathbringer's chance still increases Rage's chance. Rage has 30% crit chance plus 10% up to an additional 50 on top of the 30, meaning you can get up to 80% crit chance. Tack on your additional 20%, or whichever god you're playing. Artemis gets 15, I believe that Ne Zha has 25%. You just improve your chance to crit even better, and sometimes the chance to crit and guaranteeing those crits will do better than hoping that you are going to burst with those crits. So here's where I will close the argument. By no means is Deathbringer a bad item, and it is a vital item on certain gods in different play styles. However, in a world of joust, Deathbringer no longer serves the same purpose it does when you are on a team. Therefore, Rage is actually a really good pick on the gods you would think would do better with Deathbringer. It is your choice and your playstyle that will ultimately affect how Deathbringer works for you. Are you going to take Ne Zha as a burst god and hope that your sash, your ultimate, and the flaming spear is enough? Or will you take in Rage and use your skills accordingly to assist your basic attacks and overall overcome your opponent through basic attacks instead of your skill set? And that's really up to you. Thank you everybody for watching. I do appreciate everybody and all of the Ne Zha mastery players that gave me the idea as to why Rage could be a viable item next to Deathbringer, or a more viable for Joust. If you have any Joust questions or would like a Joust guide made for a specific subject, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, good game.